Welcome to Shatter.
My ex made more than that. She said it casually, like she was commenting on the weather. No emotion, no venom, just a fact. And the way she looked at me right after, half smile, half shrug, like it wasn't supposed to hurt. But it did. Not in the way you think. It didn't feel like a stab. It felt like a switch. Like something deep inside me just flipped. Not pain, not jealousy, not even anger. Just this cold, silent click. Like a door closing. Quiet. Final. We were sitting on the couch, takeout containers on the coffee table, a movie playing that neither of us was really watching. She was scrolling through her phone, legs tucked under her, wearing that oversized hoodie I'd given her 2 Christmases ago. I had just made some dumb joke about quitting my job and starting a food truck. Nothing serious. Just messing around. And she didn't even look up. Well, she said, my ex made more than that. Then she kept scrolling. I didn't respond. Didn't ask which ex. Didn't make a joke back. Didn't call her out. I just sat there, letting the silence settle around us like dust. And I realized something. It wasn't the first time she'd done it. The comparisons, the little digs, the passive remarks that always seemed to land just a little too close to home. But this one felt different. Maybe because it wasn't loud. Maybe because it was so casual, so effortless, that it told me more than a fight ever could. She didn't cheat. Not in the way people think of cheating. No late-night motel. No lipstick on collars. But what she did, she erased me, piece by piece. With every offhand comment. Every time she rolled her eyes when I spoke. Every time she looked past me, like I was just some placeholder in her life. That night, I didn't fight back. I didn't explain myself. Didn't try to prove my worth. Because for the first time, I saw it clearly. She wasn't my person. Not anymore. She was just a woman sitting on my couch, eating food I paid for, wearing a hoodie from a life she no longer respected, scrolling through memories of people she clearly still measured me against. And me? I was just there. I went quiet that night. Not out of weakness. Not because I was hurt, but because I'd finally seen the truth. You don't need screaming matches to break a relationship. Sometimes, all it takes is a sentence. Just 7 words, said with the wrong kind of smile. My ex made more than that. That was the moment I stopped being her partner and started being a man with a plan. Because I don't stay where I'm compared. I don't beg to be seen. She didn't know it yet. But that was the night I started walking away. Silently. Permanently. The next morning, I made her coffee like I always did. Cream, no sugar. Just the way she liked it. I set it on the kitchen counter, said nothing, and left for work 10 minutes early. No kiss. No have a good day. No glance over my shoulder. She didn't notice. At least, not right away. That's the thing about quiet shifts. They don't announce themselves. They happen slowly, like a room getting colder 1 degree at a time, until you suddenly realize you're shivering. I didn't bring up the comment. I didn't confront her, because I knew she wouldn't even remember saying it. To her, it was just background noise, like so much of our relationship had become. But for me, that sentence became the line in the sand. I wasn't angry. I was done. Done trying to prove myself. Done shrinking just to fit inside the version of a man she thought I should be. That week, I stopped asking how her day was. Stopped sending those little check-in texts around lunch. Stopped filling the space between us with anything but silence. And silence, I learned, has its own kind of gravity. It pulls people in, or pushes them away. She started noticing around day 4. Are you okay? She asked, one evening, while we were brushing our teeth side by side. I nodded. Yeah. Just tired. No warmth in my voice. No resentment either. Just flat. She glanced at me in the mirror, held my eyes for a second longer than usual, then turned back to the sink. She thought I was being sensitive. Pouting maybe. Waiting for an apology that wasn't coming. But this wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't about getting her to say sorry. This was me learning the value of emotional silence. She had spoken hers into existence, comparing me to a man who no longer existed in her life, yet clearly lived rent-free in her expectations. So now, I let my silence speak for me. And the message was simple. I'm not him. And I'm done trying to be. I started staying at work longer. Hit the gym more. Stopped sharing the small parts of my day, the random funny moments, the inside jokes, the thoughts I used to toss her way like coins in a fountain, hoping one would spark connection. She didn't notice the absence of those things at first, because she never realized how much I gave. Until I stopped giving. One night, she made dinner. Set the table. lit a candle like it was some kind of peace offering. I ate in silence, told her it was good, did the dishes, and went to bed early. No fight, no scene, just quiet, calm indifference. And that scared her more than anything else ever could, because she'd seen me frustrated, seen me upset. But this version of me, the version who didn't care to argue, that was new. That was dangerous. She started asking more questions. Is something wrong? You've been weird lately. Did I do something? I gave her nothing. Because I wasn't seeking validation. I wasn't waiting for her to explain or apologize. I had already decided. She wasn't going to be part of the next version of my life. Not because she cheated. Not because she lied. But because she made me feel optional. And when a man feels optional, he doesn't beg for a seat at the table. He builds his own. She still thought we were fine. Or at least, fixable. Maybe just a rough patch. Maybe I was in a funk. Maybe I'd snap out of it if she put on something nice, said the right thing, cooked my favorite meal. She didn't realize I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating. Because here's what happens when you stop trying to be heard. You start listening to the silence. And in that silence, you find clarity. I opened a new checking account. Separate. Unlinked. Quiet. Moved just enough from each paycheck that she wouldn't notice. Not at first. Started scanning apartments on my lunch break. Short-term leases. Fully furnished. Something temporary. Clean. Something that didn't smell like her shampoo or feel like I was sleeping next to resentment. She didn't ask where I was spending my evenings. Didn't notice that I started keeping a go bag in my trunk. Didn't question why I suddenly had a second phone charger at work. Because I kept the mask on. Still brought home groceries. Still folded laundry. Still paid every bill on time. But I was already halfway out the door. She thought I was still building with her. But I was already building without her. And that's the cruelest truth, isn't it? Most people don't get betrayed by strangers. They get betrayed by the person who smiles across from them at dinner, says love you on autopilot, and has already replaced the future you thought you were building together. She did that with a sentence. So I did it with silence. It's funny how fast a woman forgets the man she once cried for. How she looks through you now. Like you're the couch she's sat on too long. Comfortable, dependable, uninspiring. She never said it, but I felt it. That quiet disappointment. The way she praised other men in passing. Her coworker who just got promoted. Her cousin's fiancé who bought a house solo. Always small. Always indirect. But always enough to remind me. I wasn't being loved. I was being evaluated. So I stopped showing up for the test. One evening, we were sitting on the balcony. She had a glass of wine. I had water. She looked out over the city and said, "Remember when we used to talk about getting a place downtown?" I nodded. She smiled, a little wistful. "I still think about that sometimes." I didn't respond, because I had already signed a short-term lease on a place 4 blocks from downtown. Move-in date, next week. And she wasn't on the lease. That was the night I knew for sure. Not only could I leave her, I wanted to. Not out of revenge. Not to punish her. But because staying felt like volunteering for slow death. The kind that doesn't bleed, but rots. She used to be my peace. Now, she was just noise. She started to notice. It wasn't the big things. I still came home on time. Still folded the towels the way she liked. Still said, good night, before bed, even if my back was already turned. But she felt it. The shift. The absence. The way I moved through the apartment like it wasn't mine anymore. Like I was a guest, passing through. Counting down the nights until the last one. "Are you okay?" she asked one morning, sipping her coffee across from me. "You've been in a mood lately." I looked up, smiled politely. "I'm fine." She narrowed her eyes. "That tone," she said. "You always do that when you're upset but don't want to talk." I didn't respond. Because what was there to say? I wasn't upset. I was done. She called it a mood. Like I was sulking. As if this were temporary. A storm cloud that would pass if she waited long enough. But this wasn't a mood. This was detachment. Permanent. Intentional. Icy. She tried to reset the dynamic the way she always had. With control disguised as care. "You should take a break from work," she offered one night. "You've been stressed." Translation, "You've stopped orbiting me. I need to pull you back in." She started wearing perfume again. Started lingering in doorways. Started laughing louder at her own jokes. Performing intimacy like it could fix what she'd broken with a single careless sentence. But I wasn't biting. She didn't realize, you don't need to cheat to betray. Sometimes, disrespect is enough. And I was tired of being a man quietly disrespected. She tried guilt next. You used to be more affectionate, she said, standing behind me while I washed dishes. You used to care. I turned off the water, dried my hands, and met her gaze in the reflection of the window. I still care, I said. I just don't perform it anymore. She didn't have a response to that. Because what do you say to a man who stopped pretending? A few nights later, she found me sitting on the couch, scrolling through apartment listings. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood behind me, silent, watching. Then came the soft, uncertain voice. Are you looking for places? I didn't turn around. Didn't lie. Yeah. Her breath caught. Like she hadn't seen it coming. Like she thought she still had time. She walked off without another word. But that was the moment she knew. I was no longer hers to talk down. To charm. To win over with a glance and a half-lie. I had given her space to speak for years. She used it to say things like, my ex made more than that. Now it was my turn to speak. And I was doing it in silence. In bank transfers. In signed leases. In keys she didn't know existed. She tried once more. Late at night, crawling into bed beside me, resting her hand on my chest like she used to. I didn't move. Didn't pull away. But I didn't touch her back, either. And that hollow space between her fingers and my skin? That was the loudest answer she'd ever get from me. I didn't leave with a suitcase. I left with a backpack. One change of clothes, a charger, my passport, and the keys to an apartment she didn't know existed. No dramatic note. No final argument. No, we need to talk. Just a pair of keys left quietly on the kitchen counter. Resting beside the half-full mug of coffee she'd brewed but never finished. I timed it perfectly. She was at her Saturday yoga class, same routine, same instructor, same playlist. She wouldn't be back for another hour. I didn't rush. I made the bed, watered the plant in the window, even took out the trash on my way out, because I wanted the apartment to look exactly how it always did, like a life that never saw the incoming. I locked the door behind me, took the stairs, not the elevator. Didn't check my phone. By the time she walked back in, still glowing from her workout, I was already halfway across the city, walking into a space that didn't have her scent in the pillows or her voice in the walls. And I didn't feel grief. I felt relief. She wanted me to fight for dignity she stripped away. I chose silence instead. She called 2 hours later. I watched the phone ring. Her name still lit up the screen. Still had that photo of her from our last vacation, the one where she was laughing in the sun, like the world had never hurt her. I let it ring, then go to voicemail. 10 minutes later, she texted. Where are you? Did you go out? Why are your keys here? Call me. This isn't funny. I didn't reply, because none of this was a joke. And I wasn't angry. I was finished. By that evening, she had called 9 times. Each voicemail a different tone. Concern, confusion, frustration, fear. I listened to none of them. I was sitting in my new apartment, on a mattress on the floor, with takeout in one hand and a beer in the other. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. And more importantly, it was free of her. That night, I slept like I hadn't in years. No weight on my chest. No second guessing. No internal checklist of what I had to do to be enough the next day. Just peace. Pure, unfiltered, earned peace. She sent one last message before midnight. Are you seriously gone over something that small? I stared at those words for a long time, and I realized that was the problem all along. To her, it was small. To her, comparing me to another man. Belittling what I built. Mocking my ambitions. Measuring my worth in digits instead of depth. Was harmless. She never understood that what broke us wasn't one night. It was every moment she made me feel like a temporary option in a life I was trying to make permanent. If a woman compares you to her past, she never saw a future with you. And I don't live in places where I have to compete with ghosts. So I didn't answer. Didn't rage. Didn't justify. Didn't beg her to understand. I just turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and let the silence wrap around me like armor. The first full day without me was probably the quietest day of her life. No footsteps in the hallway. No door unlocking at 6:12 p.m., like always. No keys dropping into the bowl by the front door. No voice saying, hey, I'm home. I had become part of the background. And when the background disappears, you start to hear the silence. She texted again the next morning. Can you just tell me what's going on? Are you okay? Why are you acting like this? That word, acting, told me everything. She still thought it was a game. That I was making a point. That this was some dramatic pause before the apology arc. But this wasn't a pause. This was the end. I scrolled through her messages, not to read them, just to let the number of notifications stack up, let her feel what it's like to be ignored, to reach out and find nothing on the other side. She thought I'd come back when she called loud enough, but I had already disconnected. It took her 2 more days to say the words she'd been avoiding. Are you really gone over something that small? And that's when I realized she still didn't understand. To her, it was small. A comment, a joke, a flick of the wrist. But to me, it was a confession, a quiet, offhand reveal that she never truly saw me as enough. Maybe she loved me in some way, in the way you love stability, or the idea of a man who shows up. But admiration? Respect? That was never in her voice. Not when she compared my salary to a man she used to sleep with. Not when she said I used to have ambition. Not when she called me reliable, like it was a curse. She didn't cheat, but she measured, and I was always coming up short. So I left her with exactly what she valued. An empty home and a past to compare it to. 3 days later, she sent the long message. One of those block text apologies. You know the kind. Too late. Too careful. Too curated. She said I had misunderstood. That she was just stressed. That she never meant to make me feel small. That she was proud of me. That she missed me. I read it once. Then again. And I didn't feel anger. Didn't feel satisfaction. I felt distance. Like she was writing from a version of the world I no longer lived in. Because once a man sees himself through clear eyes, once he realizes he was surviving, not living, he doesn't go back. That night, I went for a walk. It was cool out. The air sharp, clean. City lights humming like a lullaby for the awake. I passed couples holding hands, arguing softly, laughing too loud. And I didn't envy them, because I knew the price of pretending, of staying in something that looks alive from the outside but is hollow at the core. She hadn't just lost me. She'd lost the version of me that would have accepted less than what he deserved. And once that version dies, there's no resurrection. Regret has an echo. It doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in slow, quiet, humiliating. First, through the unanswered messages. Then, through the growing silence from friends who used to believe her side without question. Because the thing about walking away in silence is that people start to notice. She told her friends I was going through something, that I just needed space, that we were working through it. But silence is a hard thing to fake, especially when it stretches into days, then weeks, especially when no one's heard from me. No Instagram, no updates, no we're fine stories. She called my brother. He said I was fine, but distant. She reached out to my coworker, the one she used to charm at company dinners. He told her he hadn't seen me this focused in years. He seems lighter, he said, like something finally lifted off his chest. That hit her harder than any message I could have sent, because she expected me to fall apart without her, to be lost, to crawl back. Instead, she watched from a distance, as I built a version of myself she had never bothered to meet. I didn't post about it, didn't flaunt it, but people talk, and the story started to turn. She wasn't the quiet, suffering wife anymore. She was the woman who compared her husband to her ex, and lost him for it. 2 weeks in, she showed up at my building. I saw her from the window. Same coat, same purse, same expression she wore when she wanted to talk just long enough to win. She stood there for a while. Texted, I'm outside. Can we just talk for a second? I didn't reply. Didn't come down. Didn't even flinch. Because that's what she never understood. It wasn't about the conversation anymore. It was about value. And once a man learns that his value isn't negotiable, he doesn't waste it on people who saw him as replaceable. Later that night, I checked her social media. She'd archived most of our photos. Left a few behind, strategically, I'm sure. Ones where she looked happy, in control. But I knew the truth. Control was slipping. Not because I made her pay, but because I stopped paying attention. And attention was the only currency she ever truly valued. That weekend, a mutual friend reached out. She's not doing well, he said. She didn't think you'd actually leave. She's spiraling. I thanked him for letting me know. Then I changed the subject. Because here's the part they never tell you. Peace feels selfish at first, especially when you've been trained to carry someone else's guilt like it's your own. But it's not selfish. It's survival. I still hadn't said a word to her. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because words are for people who listen. And she had spent years hearing my voice, but never listening to what it cost me to keep speaking. So now, she had to listen to the only thing I had left to say. Silence. When you take away someone's control, they don't fall apart immediately. First, they try to bargain. Then they try to spin the story. Then, when no one buys it, they break. That's where she was now. I heard she started skipping work. Told her manager she was dealing with personal things. I'm sure she left out the part where the man who once paid her rent now refused to answer her calls. The landlord called me out of habit, probably. I told him, politely, that I was no longer listed on the lease, that it wasn't my concern anymore. The look on his face when he realized I meant it? I imagined it was the same expression she wore when her card got declined for the first time, because she never paid attention to the bills. Not really. Not when I handled them. She once bragged to a friend. He takes care of everything. I don't even know what half our passwords are. She said it like a compliment, like I was some rare breed of domestic partner. But now? Now she had to find the logins herself. Now she had to untangle the life I used to hold together for both of us. Now she was alone. Not just emotionally, functionally. Mutuals started pulling back. They didn't unfriend her, but they stopped replying, stopped inviting, because no one wants to sit at a table with the person who lost everything over ego. One friend told me she tried to explain the breakup, said I'd overreacted to a misunderstood comment, said I was sensitive. That word again. Sensitive. As if basic respect is some fragile, feminine request. As if being compared to another man in your own home is something a real man should brush off. But it didn't land this time. People saw through it. Because she wasn't glowing anymore. She was unraveling. And I wasn't even there to witness it. That was the worst part for her. Not the isolation, not the consequences, but the fact that I didn't need to watch it happen. I had already moved on. Not to another woman, but to a version of myself that no longer needed her validation. She tried one last thing. An email. Long, careful, desperate, full of reflections, therapy buzzwords, attempts at accountability. She said she realized what she'd done, that comparing me to her ex had been immature, that she projected her insecurities, that she missed the way I made her feel safe. And that right there, that sentence, was all I needed to read. I miss the way you made me feel safe. Not, I miss who you were. Not, I miss us. Just the safety I gave her. The comfort. The structure. She still didn't miss me. She missed the benefits of me. And I was no longer in the business of giving out parts of myself to people who only valued what I could provide. So I archived the message. Didn't delete it. Didn't respond. Just filed it under. Closure she doesn't get. I thought, maybe, I'd feel something by now. Regret. Satisfaction. Bitterness. Relief. But mostly, I just felt still. There's a strange kind of silence that comes after a storm. When everything is wrecked, but the sky is clear. And the only sound left is your own breathing. That's where I lived now. No more questions. No more wondering what she meant. No more decoding her tone like a man trying to read a language she never bothered to teach him. Just stillness. Clean, cold, and earned. Some nights, I'd catch myself thinking about the early days. The first year. When her eyes lit up when I walked in. When she used to touch me like she meant it. When she laughed at my dumb jokes, even the ones that didn't land. I think those moments were real. At least for a while. But somewhere along the way, admiration turned into expectation. And expectation into disappointment. And then, into comparison. That was the death blow. Not infidelity. Not cruelty. Just that one, offhand sentence. My ex made more than that. It rewrote everything. Because it told me she wasn't looking at me as a partner. She was looking at me like a project. A number. A placeholder until something better came along. And I refused to be a benchmark for someone else's unhealed standards. I remember the night I bought her that necklace. It wasn't expensive. Nothing flashy. But I saw her looking at it once, just once, in a window downtown. And I remembered. Because that's what I used to do. Pay attention. She cried when I gave it to her. Said no one had ever made her feel that seen. But looking back, I realize she didn't want to be seen. She wanted to be worshipped. And I stopped kneeling the moment she crowned someone else's ghost king over my own efforts. I hadn't spoken to her in over a month. No calls. No messages. No accidental run-ins. The version of me she knew. The man who made her feel safe. The man who absorbed the hits and kept coming back. He was gone. And in his place stood someone, quieter. Not colder. Not cruel. Just finished. I saw her once. Out in public. Random. Unplanned. She was in line at a pharmacy, holding a receipt, hair tied up, hoodie 2 sizes too big. She didn't see me, and for a second, just a flicker, I saw the girl I once thought I'd grow old with. Not the woman who compared me, not the woman who measured me, but the girl who used to squeeze my hand under the table at family dinners. The girl who used to send me voice notes just to say, I miss you. The girl who, once upon a time, wanted me, not what I could one day become. But that girl was long gone, just like I was. I left the store without speaking to her, not because I was avoiding, but because the conversation was already over. It had ended weeks ago, when she said those words, when I packed that bag, when I chose silence over negotiation. There was nothing left to say. She never got a final word. No dramatic goodbye. No closure speech on a rainy street. No second chance to rewrite the past with softer language. And I think that's what broke her more than anything. The fact that I didn't leave her with a mess to clean up. I just left. Clean. Silent. Permanent. People like her, they're not afraid of losing you. They're afraid of realizing you are the one thing keeping their world from collapsing. And when you go quietly, when you don't fight, don't chase, don't argue, they don't get to be the victim anymore. They just get to sit in the wreckage of a life they took for granted. Months passed. I moved into a new place. Nothing fancy, just quiet. Big windows. Soft light. Peace in every corner. I got promoted. Started running again. Reconnected with old friends. Laughed more. And every so often, someone would ask what happened between me and her. And I'd just say, she measured me against someone who left her. So I gave her the same gift. No more. No less. I heard she moved back in with her sister. That the Carly she used to brag about got repossessed. That her support system slowly faded when they realized she wasn't the woman she pretended to be. One of her friends reached out. Said she was different now. Quieter. Withdrawn. Asked if I consider talking to her. For closure, for clarity, for old time's sake. I said no. Because healing isn't about reopening doors. It's about knowing which ones to burn to the ground. And I had already done that, not with fire, but with silence. One morning, I woke up to a message from an unknown number. It was short. No punctuation. No overthinking. I was wrong about you. I stared at it for a moment. Then I did what I should have done the first time she compared me to another man. I deleted it, blocked the number, and got on with my day. Because the truth is you don't lose someone by earning less than their ex. You lose someone by treating them like they're less than you. She said he made more. So I gave her the chance to go back to him. She didn't take it. Because he was never the point. I was. And now? Now she finally understands the value of what she threw away. When she thought I was replaceable. And me? I didn't wait for her to realize it. I didn't need her apology, her clarity, or her guilt. Because by the time the truth hit her, I was already too far gone to care. She made the comparison. I made the exit. And in doing so, I became the lesson she'll never forget. And the standard no one else will live up to. Not because I was perfect, but because I was real. And she lost me, trying to chase the ghost of a man who had already walked out of her life once. Now, so have I. Only difference is, I won't be looking back.